They told him aliens don't care about humans, until one showed up in his garage with eyes full of tears and a voice trembling with hope. Cale Roran never expected the universe to give him a second chance. Not after the way Earth's Science Council had dismissed him, not after the accident at Saturn Yard, and especially not after the AI sabotage scandal he was wrongly blamed for. Now, years later, he worked as a back-alley mechanic on Mars Outpost 9, just another forgotten cog in humanity's red dust diaspora. His garage, if you could call it that, was wedged between two supply bunkers near the Western Maglev line. The metal shutter barely worked. The autolight flickered. He slept on an old cot next to the oil-stained workbench and kept his tools closer than most people kept family. On the day everything changed, Cale was just finishing repairs on a mining hovercart, fingers black with synth grease, when the door creaked open. He didn't look up right away. "We're closed," he muttered, wiping his hands with a rag. Silence, then a soft voice. Please. I don't know where else to go." Cale turned, and every muscle in his body locked. Standing in the doorway was a Valerie child, a race known across the solar systems for their cold precision, superiority complex, and harsh enforcement of isolation laws. Tall, elegant beings, with amethyst-toned skin and bioluminescent veins that shimmered when they were emotional. This one was shaking. She looked no more than 9 human years, dressed in a torn diplomatic tunic. Her luminous violet eyes brimmed with tears, and in her small hands she cradled what looked like a damaged personal hoverpod, its energy coils sputtering blue sparks. Cale glanced outside. No guards, no escorts, no dropship. She was completely alone. "Kid," he said slowly, crouching down. "Where's your family?" Her bottom lip trembled. "I ran from the shuttle. I wasn't supposed to leave, but the pod broke and now I can't get back." His brow furrowed. "You're not supposed to be here. Your people don't mix with humans. They shoot us for looking at them wrong." "I know," she whispered. "But you're a fixer, right?" He stared at her. For a long moment, the only sound in the shop was the hum of a cooling fan and the flicker of dying light. And then, against every rule and instinct, Cale took the pod from her hands. He worked in silence, fingers dancing over plasma fuses, replacing the broken stabilizer core, repairing the steering relay. The pod was elegant. Valari engineering was always a blend of art and function, but its systems were fried, probably from overuse. The girl sat cross-legged near the bench, hugging a half-melted plush animal. Cale didn't speak, but his eyes kept darting to her. She watched him with a strange kind of hope, as if he were more alien than she was. "My name is Liravel," she said after a while. "I know I'm not supposed to talk to humans." Cale arched a brow. "Then why did you?" She hesitated. "Because my mother says humans are monsters, but when I fell, no one else stopped. Only you did." His jaw clenched. "I'm Kyle," he said finally. "And I'm no monster, just a guy with a wrench." Her eyes glowed slightly, and she smiled. "You're the first human I've ever met." He didn't know how to respond to that, so he focused on tightening the last bolt and powering up the pod. The engine purred softly, fixed. She gasped in delight. "You did it!" Kyle handed it over carefully. "Keep it low altitude, under 20 meters. The power cell's stable, but don't stress it." She nodded, holding the pod like it was life itself. "Thank you, Cale." He paused, reached under the bench, pulled out a spare fusion cell, his last one. "Take this, in case something else fails." Her eyes widened. "But this is worth—" "Don't tell anyone," he said, softly. "Just get back safe." Liravel looked at him for a long time. Then she stepped forward and did something no Valari ever did to a human. She hugged him, quick, shy, real. Then she turned and raced out the door. Kyle stood in the silence, heart pounding. The next morning, the storm came, 3 corporate patrol. Officers kicked down the garage door, rifles raised. Drones hovered in behind them, scanning everything. "Kyle Roran!" the lead officer barked. "You are under investigation for unauthorized alien contact, handling restricted tech, and violation of the Unity Trade Accord." He barely had time to speak before his tools were confiscated, his workshop sealed, and his ID stripped. No hearing. No defense. Just a cold, mechanical voice from the comm unit. "You are terminated effective immediately. Mars Outpost 9 is not responsible for your repatriation or survival." By noon, he was out on the street, backpack slung over one shoulder, staring at the place he'd called home for the last 2 years. People passed him by without a glance. One good deed, one small act of kindness. And now he had nothing. He walked into the wasteland that evening, heading nowhere. The sandstorm winds howled like ghosts, and Cale's boots sank deep into crimson soil. But even as he coughed and stumbled through the Martian dusk, one thought kept burning in his mind. She called. Me a savior, and for the first time in years he didn't feel like a failure. He felt alive. Cale Roran had been many things in life: engineer, outcast, accused saboteur. But now he was something new, alone. 3 days had passed since the corporate patrol dragged him out of his garage, since they wiped his records, revoked his access, and left him with nothing but a dented pack and a bruised ego. He wandered the edge of the Outpost 9 perimeter now, where the dust storms whispered of buried secrets and forgotten graves. There were no visitors out here, only the scavengers and the storms. He spent the first night sleeping under a rusted satellite dish, half buried in sand. The second, under the wing of an old cargo ship wreck from the Phobos evacuation war. The third, he wasn't sure he'd survive. His water was running low. The rations he'd traded for spare junk weren't enough. And worst of all, his head wouldn't stop replaying that single moment, the one where Liravel hugged him like he mattered. He should have sent her away, should have closed the door. But he didn't, and now he was paying for it. Still, he didn't regret it. On the 4th day, something changed. Kyle was scavenging an old sensor pylon for scrap. A few usable wires, maybe a relay board, when the sky cracked with thunder. He looked up, but there were no clouds, no storm. Instead, the sky tore open with shimmering blue energy as a rift gate formed high above the horizon. The dust parted as if pushed aside by invisible hands. Then came the ships, sleek, silent, Valeri. 3 of them descended like ghost birds, triangular hulls glowing faint violet, humming with antimatter drives that hummed just below hearing. They hovered just beyond the perimeter fence, casting long shadows across the dunes. Kyle froze. His blood ran cold. No one came to Mars Outpost 9, and no Valerie ship ever landed without an escort fleet. But there they were, watching, waiting. And then one moved, directly toward him. The ship lowered silently, its stabilizers kicking up red sand, in a spiral. Kyle backed away instinctively, shielding his eyes. The hatch hissed open with pressurized steam. From within the silver glow stepped a woman. She was Valerie. Taller than any human, skin the shade of twilight, veins glowing faintly blue in her neck and temples. Her body was armored in ceremonial plates, polished and elegant, more a symbol of status than protection. Her black hair fell in metallic strands around her shoulders. But her eyes... Cale's breath caught. They were Liravel's eyes, just older, sharper, and brimming with the same stubborn spark. She stepped toward him without hesitation, ignoring the sand and wind. "You are Cale Roran," she said. It wasn't a question. He blinked. "Yeah, and you are High Lady Velray, first guardian of the Valari House of Stars, mother of Liravel." Oh no. Cale straightened instinctively. "Look, I didn't mean to break any laws. She came to me. I just helped her fix her pod and..." "I know," Velray interrupted. He shut his mouth. She told me everything, she continued. How you treated her with dignity, how you gave her your only power cell, and how you were punished for it. Kale's jaw tightened. I didn't do it for a reward. Good, she said. Because you're not getting one. Ouch. You're getting reinstated. Kale stared. What? You're a mechanic, a builder. And from what I've seen, she said, nodding toward the broken pylon behind him. A stubborn, resourceful one. The Valari fleet needs someone like you. Someone who understands both human tech and heart. He laughed bitterly. You sure? You want a heartbroken, jobless human traitor working on your ships? Velrai stepped closer. Her voice dropped. My daughter calls you a hero. Kyle's chest thumped. She turned, walking back toward the ship, then paused and glanced over. Her shoulder. You can stay here. Die here. Or come with me. Help build something better. He looked at her. At the ship. At the glowing insignia on its hull. A stylized star cradled in wings. He looked back at the outpost, far in the distance, where no one had come looking. For him. Kale took a breath and stepped forward. Inside the Valari vessel, everything shimmered with strange light. Curved halls, soft pulses of energy. It felt like walking inside a living creature that welcomed him. Lyravel was waiting near, the central command chamber. She sprinted toward him with a laugh and hugged him again. No hesitation. You came, she beamed. Kyle smiled. You made quite the impression, kiddo. Velrai watched the two with a strange expression, somewhere between curiosity and approval. You'll be assigned to the integration team, she said. We're building hybrid tech, your human ingenuity, our crystal lattice reactors. You'll help design new ships. Kyle couldn't believe it. After years of rejection, someone believed in him again. No, not someone. Aliens, and it all started with a kid who trusted the wrong mechanic and changed his life. As they lifted into the stars, Mars shrinking behind them, Kyle stood at the viewing deck, Lyravel beside him, Velrai on his other side. He didn't know what awaited him up there. War, discovery, love. But one thing was certain. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Kale had never seen stars like this. Not through a dome, not through rusted glass or data feed projections, but real, blazing, endless, alive. The Valari ship, Seraphis, cruised at sublight, her hull a seamless sculpture of energy and crystal, humming softly beneath his boots like a heartbeat. It had been 2 weeks since Kale left Mars. 2 weeks of integration, 2 weeks of being tested, questioned, watched, and slowly accepted. He worked side by side with Valari engineers, learning to navigate their biotech systems, understanding their living circuitry that pulsed and changed in response to emotion and intention. Where humans used wrenches and wires, the Valari sang to their machines. And Kale, he listened. Lyravel was never far, bright, curious, always asking how things worked. She had a genius for connections, between people, machines, hearts. She reminded Kale of the little sister he lost during the Earth-Mars migration riots. Maybe that's why he protected her so fiercely. Maybe that's why she trusted him so easily. But it was Velrai who haunted his thoughts. High Lady Velrai was powerful, commanding, intimidating as hell, but also, when no one else was looking, gentle. In the quiet hours after training, she'd walk the corridors with Kale. Not as a commander, but as a woman burdened by war and memory. She asked him about Earth, about music, about what it meant to dream. And when he asked about her world, she hesitated, but always told the truth. One night, standing under a crystal dome looking out into the void, she said, "You humans feel everything so deeply. You burn bright and fast. We envy that." Kale turned to her, searching her eyes. "And yet you fight so hard to stay cold." She didn't answer, but her hand brushed his and stayed. Then the enemy came. They were called the Vakor, once Valerie, now corrupted by synthetic plague and ancient rage. Their ships were monstrous things of metal and bone, powered by minds long gone mad. They had one purpose: reclaim the stars, no matter the cost. The first strike came at Outpost Helion, a human Valari research station. Kyle saw it unfold from the command deck. Helion didn't stand a chance. The screen flickered with static as hulls were breached, as screams echoed through the comms. Hundreds died. Dozens more were taken. Velray's face was stone as she issued the counter-command, all forces to Sector 7. But when she turned to Kale, something cracked behind her eyes. "They're not just attacking," she whispered. "They're searching." The fleet moved like a storm, and Kale, mechanic, exile, accidental hero, was pulled into the center of it. He wasn't meant to be a soldier. He didn't want to fight. But when Seraphis came under attack, when systems failed and engines screamed and fire raged through the secondary core, he ran toward the flames. He rerouted power through a collapsed chamber. He used sheer grit and human instinct to restabilize the flux drive. He risked his life again for people who weren't even his species. When the battle ended, Velray found him collapsed in the engine bay, hands burned, suit torn, heart pounding. She knelt beside him. "You saved us," she said quietly. Kale forced a grin. "Don't get used to it." Her hand trembled as she reached for his. "I already have." That night, something changed. Velray wasn't a warlord or a mother or a dignitary. She was just a woman, standing in the shadows of a silent observatory. With a man who'd given everything without asking for anything, she stepped closer to him. "Why do you do it?" she asked. "You owe us nothing." Kyle's eyes met hers. "I do it for Lyra, for the crew, for the ships, for you." She looked away. "Then I have to tell you something." Kyle waited. "I didn't bring you here just to repay you. I brought you because—" Her voice cracked. "Because I need you." He blinked. Velray's gaze was raw now. No mask, no armor. "The Vakor. They weren't just Valari. They were part of my house. My brother led them. And when I refused to join him, when I chose peace, he swore to destroy everything I loved." She looked up at Kyle, as if bracing for judgment. Instead, he stepped forward and touched her face gently. "Then let's stop him," he said. Together. Velray's breath caught, and then she kissed him. It was a quiet kiss. Not passion, but promise. Not lust, but loyalty. In that moment, they weren't human and alien. They were just two people, standing against the dark. Later, as the Seraphis prepared to jump again into hostile territory, Kale stood at the forward bay. Lyravel approached, humming a song he didn't recognize. "You and my mother." "You like each other, don't you?" Kyle blinked. It's okay," she giggled. She smiles now. She never used to. Kyle smiled too, despite everything. "Then I'll do whatever it takes," he said. But before the jump completed, a proximity alarm screamed. A new signal. Massive. Headed straight for them. Not a fleet, a carrier. Flagship of the Vakor. And it was broadcasting one word: Kyle. Kale had never heard his name sound like that. Not spoken, not whispered, broadcasted, in a 1,000-layered synthetic voice across the void. "Kale Marrow, human designate, you are summoned." On the Seraphis bridge, the entire crew stood frozen. Even Velray's expression, always so composed, cracked into something close to horror. The Vakor weren't just attacking. They were calling for him, personally. Kyle's voice was tight. "What the hell do they want with me?" Velray looked away. "I was afraid of this." In the war chamber, drenched in holograms, data streams, and shadow light, Kyle demanded answers. I'm a mechanic. I fix ships. I don't lead wars. I don't hack alien codes. Why is their flagship hunting me? Velray hesitated, then slowly removed a crystal from her belt and placed it on the table. The room dimmed. A projection formed, a faded recording of a lab, a human technician, and behind him, a child. Kyle stared. That's me. Velray nodded. You weren't just any refugee child. You were part of the Andaris program, a human Valari genetic bridge experiment, designed to heal the divide between our species. But the program was buried, erased after the Vakor uprising. Kale staggered back. I don't remember any of that. You wouldn't. They sealed your memories, your body adapted, but your mind was wiped for your safety. Until now, the recording ended. Kyle sat in silence. He wasn't just some guy. He was living proof that humans and Valerie could be one, and that terrified the Vakor. They see you as an abomination, Velray whispered, but also a key. Your DNA can interface with both their corrupted tech and ours. They want you to build a bridge, one that would make them unstoppable. And if I refuse, Kyle asked, they'll take you, rip your mind apart, use your blood to rewire the stars. The crew wanted to run. Velray didn't. I won't let them have you, she said, touching his hand, then gripping it with fire. Kale, listen to me. We fight. Together. I'll stand between you and that nightmare. But if I stay, people die. If you run, the galaxy dies. Kale made his choice. He suited up, not in armor, but in the flight deck rig he always wore. This time it felt heavier, not from weight, but purpose. As they approached the Vakor carrier, Seraphis flanked by 2 battle cruisers, the tension was fire in Kale's chest. He looked to Velray beside him, regal, radiant, brave. You guys, ever scared? He asked. She met his gaze. Every second. He grinned. Good. Let's be terrified together. Then came the breach. The Vakor ship didn't fire. It opened, a corridor of twisted black metal forming like a throat in space, lined with violet lights. They wanted Kyle to enter. Alone, the signal said. Velray's hand gripped his arm. No, I'm going with you. Kyle shook his head. If they take you too, we both lose. I'll go. But if I don't come out in 10 minutes, blow it to hell. Her lip trembled. Kale, he kissed her. I'm not dying. I've got reasons now. You, Lyra, this crew, my people. And with that, he walked into the dark. Inside the carrier, it felt like a living tomb. The walls breathed, whispers echoed, and at the center, on a throne of cables and bone, sat Valak, leader of the Vakor, once a Valari prince. And Velray's brother. He looked like a corpse wrapped in lightning. You came, Valak rasped. The hybrid, the bridge. Kale stood tall. You're not getting anything from me. Valak grinned, teeth like obsidian. You already gave it. Your emotions, your loyalty. I felt every beat the moment you kissed my sister. You're more connected to us than you know. Kyle's rage flared. I'm nothing like you. But you could be, Valak whispered. Join us. Rewrite the galaxy. She will betray you. She has before. Kale froze. What? Valak tilted his head. She never told you what happened to your parents, did she? Kale's mind reeled. They died on Mars. Everyone knows that. Valak's voice slithered. No, they were taken. Experimented on by the Andaris team. She was one of them. Kale staggered back. No, you're lying. But doubt was a poison, and it had already entered his veins. He left the chamber shaken. The Vakor let him walk. Back on Seraphis, Velray ran to him, eyes searching. Kale, what happened? He looked at her, torn between trust and betrayal. Tell me the truth. Did you work on the Andaris program? She was silent, then nodded. I didn't know it was you. I never knew your name, your face. They kept you hidden, even from us. But when I saw that crystal, I knew, and I swore I'd protect you. Always. Kale's hands trembled. You should have told me. I wanted to. I just didn't want to lose you. Silence stretched. Pain throbbed between them. Then Kale said softly, "You won't lose me, but this has to be honest." She nodded. "Then we fight, side by side. But no more secrets." He took her hand. No more secrets. Outside, the Vakor carrier began to transform, not retreating, preparing, their final weapon rising like a god from its depths. Velray's voice hardened. "Then we end this, once and for all." The Vakor god engine awakened, a colossus of void metal and living code, shaped like a humanoid titan, rose from the enemy carrier's core. Kyle and Velray stood together on the Seraphis Bridge, watching the nightmare unfold. 10,000, meters tall, arms outstretched to consume entire fleets. Its chest pulsed with the same crystalline hue that lived in Kyle's veins. Velray whispered, "It's not just a weapon, it's a receiver." Kyle nodded. "It's tuned to me." And, as if hearing him, the god engine turned. A single word echoed in Kale's skull, deep, ancient, absolute: merge. Inside him, something broke open. The part of Kale that had always felt a step out of sync. His instincts, his reaction time, his dreams of stars and patterns and circuits came flooding back. The Andaris fusion, the experimental DNA blend of human logic and Valari intuition surged awake. Kale dropped to one knee, gasping, every nerve on fire. Velray ran to him. "Kale!" But he rose slowly, eyes glowing white-blue. "I can stop it," he said. "I can interface with it. If I connect, I can shut it down." Velray looked at him in horror. "You could also die, or worse, become it." Kale looked back with a soft, sad smile. "I know." As Seraphis launched toward the heart of the machine, Velray gathered the crew. "We give Kale one shot," she commanded. "Hold every enemy back, no matter the cost." Outside, the Vakor swarm poured in, hundreds of drone ships, twisted, fighters and organic missiles screeching across the stars. Battle erupted. Every laser, torpedo, and energy wave screamed across the void. Kale climbed into the Seraphis core interface chamber, a sacred place no human had ever entered. He placed his palm on the neural conduit, and everything changed. He saw everything. The stars folded. Time fractured. He was no longer Kale Marrow, mechanic from Luna Colony. He was Bridgewalker, the hybrid spark across two species, carrying every emotion, every pain, every choice. He reached out to the god engine's heart. "You were made to destroy," he whispered into its mind. "But I was made to choose." The machine resisted, screaming. But Kale didn't use strength. He used love. He sent it memories, of Velray laughing, of little Lyra's glowing eyes, of metal pieces fitting perfectly after hours of work, of finding meaning in fixing what's broken. "You're not a weapon," he told the Titan. "You're a second chance." The Vakor command detected the interference and launched a final override. The Titan screamed and began to self-destruct, trying to take Kale and the Seraphis with it. Velray knew what she had to do. She entered a fighter pod, flew straight into the core, and slammed her ship into the feedback nexus, buying Kale precious seconds. "Velray, no!" Kale's scream shook reality. The V. Connection ruptured, and he was thrown back into his body, gasping, heart shattered. Outside, the Vakor fleet blinked out, systems collapsing. The Titan froze, then slowly crumbled into dust. Silence fell over the battlefield. The war was over, but Kale didn't care. He ran to the wreckage of Velray's pod, tore the hatch open, and there she was, bloody, unconscious, but alive. He pulled her into his arms, trembling. "You said no more secrets," he whispered. "So I'll tell you everything. I love you. You saved me. And I'm never leaving you again." Her eyelids fluttered open, barely. "Took you long enough," she mumbled. He laughed through tears. Months later, the Seraphis floated in peaceful orbit around Valerie Prime. A new alliance had formed, humans and Valerie sharing knowledge, building together. The Andaris project had been reborn, not as an experiment, but as a symbol of hope. Kyle stood on the bridge, watching the sunrise. Behind him, Velray approached, her arm still in a healing brace, her crown now returned to her head. "You sure you want to turn down a command seat?" she asked. Kyle turned, grinning. "I'm not a general, I'm a mechanic. But I'll build the engines of this piece, one bolt at a time." She took his hand, and together, they watched the galaxy heal. The end. In a galaxy torn by war, one human's heart bridged two worlds. If this story touched you, inspired you, or simply gave you chills, share it. Because sometimes the smallest people fix the biggest things.